Hello. Yeah. Good evening once again, and welcome back to the final session for this workshop, which is the panel discussion. Sorry for the slight hold up. We're trying to sort some few things out. As you all know, you know my name already. I'm Isaac. I'm filling in for my boss, who unfortunately was not able to join us. He was supposed to take care of this panel, but he wasn't able to join us. So I'll be filling in for him. We are going to look at the importance of standardization of SG13 hot topics for African countries. Basically, the subject areas that we have discussed in the past 2 days, today and yesterday. And as you know, the major hot topics that we've discussed so far on how to create trusted networks. We're looking at the IMT 2020. We look at machine learning, then technologies for 2030, technology convergence, cloud computing, and big data. And as well as for African countries, as well as possible measures to increase the participation of African countries in SG13 standardization on these topics. The whole idea is to find solutions and a way forward on how all of us will be able to participate fully in the work of SG13. Now, we are fortunate once again to have with us panelists who have been involved in communication standardization all over, both in the regional level and international. So we invite them to come and join us on the stage. And the idea is that we will throw some few questions to them, an average of a maximum of, because of time, we will do only 2 questions. Then they will attempt to help us find solutions to, or profess the way forward on how best we can participate in the work of SG13. So, the first panelist, needs no introduction once again. I invite Dr. Fidelis Ona to come and join us. Then we'll be followed by Engineer Charles Chike Azadu. Then we have Mr. Fati Seni, who's a Senior Policy Manager with GSMA. Mr. Fati has had a lot of experience in the communications regulatory in Senegal before he joined GSMA. Now, he's one of the big shots who are controlling affairs at GSMA. Then we have Elliot Caballo, our own Elliot, one and only rapporteur. And you have Mr. Bako Wakil, the chairman of SG20 Regional Group, who is kind to join us to help us. We have Peter Okundele, a very experienced director with Ericsson, with extensive experience and knowledge in network development in Africa. Gentlemen, you are welcome. It's rather unfortunate the panel looks a bit masculine. You're hoping that in future we will be able to mix it up with some of our women in ICT. So, we'll ask the questions, then you try your best to answer it as you can. So, as it is, I'm going to start with Dr. Fidelis. Dr. Fidelis, you remember when ITU was conducting the survey for the big data. Actually, the circular circulated, there were two separate circulars that were circulated. One was survey on big data. The other was to gauge how developing countries are making use of ITU recommendations. You know more than we do because you've been involved in a lot of work at the ITU. Please, can you tell us what is going on with all these IT recommendations with respect to developing countries?
Thank you, Isaac. In fact, it started with ITU itself. ITU was complaining that the recommendations which translate into standards that they produce are very rarely or barely used in Africa. So and we have a question, which is question 5, which of course Simon and Elliot are handling. So they took it up and we developed some questionnaire to find out from different countries on why these standards are not being used. Some say they use them. Some say they don't understand them. Some say they are not relevant. But in all and all, what we gathered was that we ourselves have shown absence from developing these standards. So somehow, they do not even know some of the standards exist. Some also say that the nomenclature does not give a direct picture of the content of the standard. So when you are looking for something, you see a name, you may not really get it. But be that as it may, countries responded, and then they have been collated and published as a supplement Y46. So if is appended to other documentations, that if anybody is fully interested in it, he can go and read it in detail. But it behoves on us, like my brother, Honorable Wakil, answered the Prof yesterday. You can't blame somebody who is waiting for you to supply him something, and you don't supply, and now he uses whatever he finds there. And all of us are aware of the fact that there is, even within Nigeria, you leave one city and go to another city, you find that there's a little difference. The shrubs different, the atmosphere different, even people react differently and so on. So if you want your local content to be captured, the only way is for you to participate and participate fully. When Simon was saying, he gave us, we should be attending, and I think Wakil too, that we should be attending. It's not simply attending, which is what we are doing, and we are attending to discuss what others have submitted. There are categories. You have the chairman of the group, you have the vice chair, you also have the rapporteurs, you have the chairman of working parties, you have rapporteurs, and you have editors. So it is necessary to participate at that level. I think Simon mentioned it, yes, if you can influence. And if you were part of the people that developed a standard, you will know it inside out. So, but be that as it may, the outcome have been published, and I want to encourage us that there are a lot of ingredients in the publications of IT, a lot indeed. We should not say it doesn't affect us. It does, and those things are very relevant to us. The difference between them and our local culture is just very little. You can adapt them. So whatever you are doing, it will be very good for you to score through the whole documentation. Ask people in NCC or your regulator. Ask as you see Dr. Tatiana there and Shabna, they are always very eager to assist. You send your request and they will respond on what and probably guide you on the recommendation. All the recommendations are very relevant and very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The most important thing, as he has stressed, is to get involved, not necessarily participating. Thank you very much, Fidelis. I'll come back to you for one more question. But now let me move on to Engineer Charles Chike Asadu. Engineer, we know 5G, machine learning and AI, most, if not all, of these technologies have been led by researchers from academia, and we know them. However, the academia in Africa is on many occasions blamed for not living up to their task as compared to their counterparts from the developed countries. Please, can you summarize briefly what you think is the main challenge why the academia is not participating fully?
Thank you for the question. The academia is participating fully in ITU work, but that the academia in Africa in particular and in the developed world are not participating fully. You see, I have experience in Egypt, and I noticed that those of them in North Africa are participating effectively. And if you look at their setup, you see that the academias have contribution that is up north. When you come to West Africa, Central Africa, and some part of South Africa, the participation by the academia is very little. And I attribute that to lack of awareness. One. Two, even if they must participate, sponsorship becomes a second problem. You can see now that there's a growing awareness. And the academia are coming. The right time, I think you, Lauren, Futo, Mina, Nsuka is here. They are coming up. Once that awareness is created, they will come. Then the second challenge will be sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sponsorship is very, very important. We know resources are a bit scarce down here. So we may have to look at the sponsorship. I'll come back to you for you to profess some few suggestions on how best we can tackle that problem. But let me move on to my colleague from GSMA, Fatih. Help us out. How can telecom consumers in developing countries gain trust in these new technologies that we've been discussing? Since yesterday and today, I hope I'm not speaking too fast because of the French translation. But since yesterday and today, we've been discussing new technologies. How can telecom consumers in developing countries gain trust in all these new technologies that we are talking about?
Thank you, Isaac. Okay, I speak English, but I'm not really good in English, so I will make the interpreters work today. So I will speak in French. Is it okay?
Go ahead, it's okay. People should get their headsets.
Ok, merci beaucoup. Donc, en fait, d'abord, je vais commencer par dire que euh, aujourd'hui, la technologie pour les consommateurs, ça veut presque rien dire. Aujourd'hui, en fait, il faut qu'on réfléchisse et qu'on montre aux consommateurs qu'est-ce que la technologie peut leur apporter dans leur vie de tous les jours. Donc nous, à GSMA, c'est sur ça qu'on travaille. Je vais donner l'exemple. Aujourd'hui, partout on parle de smart cities, de smart cities. Mais est-ce qu'on a demandé aux populations africaines quel genre de smart cities on veut mettre en place? Donc l'objectif, ce n'est pas de venir et de répliquer les villes intelligentes, les smart cities en Europe ou aux États-Unis. L'objectif, c'est de mettre en place des smart cities, mais adaptées à la population africaine et aux villes africaines, donc aux villages africains, et de leur montrer comment les nouvelles technologies aujourd'hui peuvent les aider à améliorer leur vie au quotidien. Donc aujourd'hui, c'est pour ça que nous faisons un focus aussi sur la protection des données personnelles, parce que aujourd'hui les populations africaines ont peur d'utiliser les technologies parce qu'ils n'ont pas encore confiance. Donc il faut leur montrer qu'il y a une régulation en place, il y a un cadre réglementaire en place. Donc il faut aussi que les décideurs, les régulateurs et les opérateurs travaillent ensemble pour mettre en place un environnement, un bon environnement, et un environnement qui va faire en sorte que les consommateurs, qu'ils aient confiance. L'autre chose aussi sur laquelle nous voulons parler, c'est par rapport aujourd'hui à la 5G. Donc la GSMA avait fait une étude par rapport à la 5G pour voir quels sont les pays qui sont prêts à utiliser la 5G. Et lorsqu'on a fait notre étude, mais qui est disponible en ligne, vous allez voir que les pays africains, la plupart, au début de l'année 2019, ils n'étaient pas encore prêts à utiliser la 5G. Donc, ça aussi, il faudrait aussi que c'est-à-dire que les gouvernements, les consommateurs, mais que tout le monde s'asseye et puis qu'on dise, mais comment on va mettre en œuvre la 5G? Parce que la 5G, elle est ici, elle a beaucoup d'utilité, elle est importante pour les populations. Donc, aujourd'hui, il faut une feuille de route déjà pour qu'on puisse savoir. Parce que la 5G, ce n'est pas est-ce que ça va venir, la 5G est déjà là, mais pour l'Afrique, c'est comment la 5G va être utilisée pour le bénéfice des populations. Donc aujourd'hui, vraiment, il faudrait qu'on s'attarde et qu'on puisse aujourd'hui
so many areas, but then the area that we want to look at is from the regulatory point of view, where you say the right regulatory framework is likely to bring trust for consumers. I'll come back to you again for you to also give us from the not necessarily your personal or the GSMA, but what you all think should be the regulatory intervention required to facilitate increase in some of the new technologies you are talking about. Thank you very much. I'll move on to Elliot, our able rapporteur. Please tell us, you have been involved a lot with SG13 activities, and I think you've seen some of the challenges. How can developing countries be effectively involved in standardization process of SG13 in particular, and other standards development organizations in general?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Standardization, as I look at it, is not taught in school. That's one thing. So I think, one, it is up to the policy to ensure that such subjects may be taught maybe even as the optional subjects in school. And of course, when a baby is born, first of all, the baby will learn to sit down, then they'll learn to crawl, they'll stand up, and then they'll walk. Yesterday, I was sharing you with a ladder of standardization. That ladder is very important So one thing, we need to have the know-how. Developing countries need to start looking at standards, even just reading them or even applying them in their work. My first engagement when I came from school, I joined an operator. And when doing specifications, we used to quote standards just so that you can purchase equipment. We didn't know that those actually are standards that are developed by some international organizations. You just quote them in the specifications. But that's where it starts from. You read them and then you begin to understand what they are talking about. When you know who developed them, then you can start participating in their activities. And when you participate, then you have the age to influence the development of those standards. So developing countries need to take keen interest in the standardization process. They need to begin at home. They need to ensure that at home they are able to read and understand those standards and are able to apply them in their jurisdictions. When they do that, then they will see that there will be need for them to now start getting to participate, because most of the things that there will be in those standards are not the things that they might need in their jurisdictions. Most of them may be for foreign jurisdictions. So when they participate, then they will have their voice heard, so that some of those nitty-gritty parameters are tuned to their localities. I remember us trying to come up with installation standards, especially for lightning and protection. You know, where I come from, there's a lot of lightning, and the parameters that were in those standards could not fit in our environment. So we had to adjust them to suit our environment. But then it comes back to say, if we participated in the development of this standard, they would have just adopted it. There would have been no need for us to make any adjustments. So know-how, participation, then you can influence. I think that's my story here.
Thank you very much, Elliot. I think you've articulated it well enough, that participation is what we need. And participating also, we must have a strategy for participating, in that we want to gain something from it. He has articulated well enough the benefit we can derive from standards. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our round. But I think the next thing that I will do is that we'll give opportunity to I think one or two questions for anybody who wants to also, whether in the form of a question or contribution, but we'll indulge, please, that it should be brief for us so that we can move on to the next questions. Thank you very much. Any question? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next round of questions. Oh, sorry. Please, microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Edoyemi Ogo from NCC. I think the comment I have, or is a question, basically, is in respect of the comment, in respect to having standards taught in schools, for example, as an optional course. It sounds like a very interesting idea, but how do you see it work? At what level? Is it at university level? Is it at postgraduate level? At what level? How do you envisage, for example, is this just an idea you're just throwing out there to be discussed further, or is it something you've looked at in detail before now? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that interesting question. Of course, there's always a way that we can do it. It might be not, standardization is cross-cutting. Right now, we're talking of technological standardization, but it's cross-cutting. Even in biology, you learn of standards. You have a bottle of water. It has to conform to some kind of standard. So when I talk of standardization, I'm not only talking about the ICT standards, but any standard that you can think of. Yesterday we were discussing just a recipe. You know, very little that we know that those are actually standards. So a standard can be taught at any level, in any sector. And if we realize that most of the things that we do actually can actually be summarized in a standard, then we'll be getting somewhere. So when graduates come out of the university, they will know that most of the things that they do are basically standards. And that will help them to actually even have their life put in order. Because even in life at home, there are some certain standards that you conform to, even without having them documented. So that principle should actually come from a very young age. So as those children grow up, they will be able to actually relate what it is that happens in life to standardization. So that's actually basically where I was coming from.
Thank you very much, Elliot Caballo. Is there any more questions from the floor? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our next round of questions. Dr. Fidelis. Hey, sorry. Yes, I was following my list. Sorry, yeah, Wako. Bako Wakil. So, please share with us what are the key challenges that may hinder quick adoption and implementation of new emerging technologies in developing countries from your point of view?
All right. Thank you very much. I think from my own view, those things that might be a challenge for quick and immediate implementations of some of these emerging and new technologies in Africa, or particularly in developing countries, has to do with, one, infrastructure deficit. Now, popular among them is power infrastructure as well as broadband infrastructure. In most of the developing countries, for instance in Nigeria, we have almost a glut of fiber capacity at our shore, in Lagos. Over 60 terabytes of fiber capacity is there. However, when you come to the hinterland, when we talk of intercity and intracity metropolitan fiber, is very, very low. And in the other presentation that we have shown, either in one of those countries, he said it's only about 21%. It's in Ghana, right? Utilization and so on. So, which means most of these, if we take, for instance, Internet of Things, where you may have over 1 million connected devices in a square kilometer with a low latency and so on, we also need a good backbone for backhauling all this information to the switch and all that. So infrastructure deficit is one. Another thing is issue of trust that we talked about. A lot of people are apprehensive somehow of new technologies because of lack of trust in a way. A lot of time people think perhaps security agencies are monitoring them, or some sort of government agencies are monitoring them, and so on. So they are a little bit afraid or don't have the trust. The other issue is the security also. Now, with what is going on all around us, particularly in the era of Internet of Things, for instance, where even in a single home, you may have 20, 30 devices connected. What happens if somebody hack into it? So there is also this issue of security. So those are the major, I think, challenges I see in terms of quick adoption and implementation of some of these new and emerging technologies in developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wake. But then most important thing is that some of these gatherings is also intended to look out for solutions for the factors and challenges that he has enumerated. Infrastructure, trust, and then security. We need to ponder over them and see how best we can provide the necessary standards in helping us also leapfrog into the future network. Thank you very much, Wakil. I'll move quickly towards Okundele from Ericsson. I know Ericsson, you've been involved in a lot of networks in Africa. Your experience to share with us is going to really help us move forward. Please tell us, towards standardization of future networks, can you share with us a little bit of Ericsson's contribution in helping developing countries gain from standardization? Or has it always been profits, profits, and profits?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. From Ericsson's side, it has not always been profits. Okay? But before I even delve that, I just want to quickly go back to the question Engineer Deyemi raised on standards and teaching in schools. There's a flip side to teaching standards in school. And I don't totally subscribe that we are not teaching standards. I would rather say the standards are evolving. They are changing. So what is being taught yesterday is not relevant today. So I would rather add to it. So it's an addition to what you said before. Let's stick to standard, but let's make sure that we are teaching the standard as it evolves. Else we get caught in that quagmire that we are teaching outdated standard. Back again to your question that you raised on what's Ericsson's view and what have we been doing in standardization. With all sense of humility, NCC can attest to they did start some good discussion on quality of service some years back. Okay, I think it started even from the days of Engineer Fidelis, and we have been an active contributor to that. Now, looking beyond Ericsson, that avenue, that platform that the regulator provided for us to discuss some of these standards has actually helped us further. We've done on 2G, we've done on 3G, we're currently on 4G. I will now push that response back to the regulator. I say, why don't we start 5G now? This is the time to start discussing those standards. We need not wait until when we have live 5G networks. It will be a good time to start discussing it now. Yes, spectrum, of course, is not available. And for you to get these fantastic things, we talk about 5G, we can argue. Is 5G here? Is it not there? Is it in the future? Is it present? The fact is, it is coming or it's here already. And there are already live networks. So we can start discussing those standards. There is a firm commitment from Ericsson, which we have been doing across the world. And we are happy to do that in Africa. But then we need to quickly say, the regulator needs to set the ball rolling. So this is the time to say, let's start discussing those standards. So beyond the fact that we come to these meetings like this, there should be technical meetings to start saying, where are the standards? And we are more than happy to share our experiences. We had delegates to the European Union when they started 5G. We're still there. We are more than happy to start that discussion in Nigeria. So my quick feedback would be, please, let's start that discussion. And there is a firm commitment from us to engage in that direction.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your contribution, your statements. And what I take also from what you are saying is that it's for, as regulators, we should change the paradigm a little bit, where anytime we call operators, then it means it's about, we should start bringing them to be part of the work that we are doing. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll move on and start all over again. Dr. Fidelis, now, with the issues that you raise, please tell us, right now, how best can we benefit from this regulation? There's tons of these regulations coming out. We saw the ones Dr. Vishnuram, Marco shared, Dr. Rim shared some. I also even indicated one in my presentation. Yesterday we saw so many of them. How best can we benefit from all these recommendations that are being churned out from the ITU?
Thank you, moderator. Africa is a consuming continent or nation. But be that as it may, we have vendors here, we have operators here, we have regulators, we have also consumers. And there is something that Elliot said about lightning in their place. And also, what we noticed also, maybe in Nigeria, is that if you're transmitting radio signal across palm trees, they tend to attenuate fast. But if you are transmitting the same signal across coconut trees, they are not affected. So these are certain peculiarities, really, that could go into it. How we can benefit is by actively participating. Then we have said it, and somebody has even echoed it. In Africa, and we see it there, in terms of ITUT, it is mostly government representatives, government delegates that attend. Meantime, the people that really have experience in the field are not there. If, for instance, MTN, Airtel also, comes and tells the commission that the quality of service they are having around so and so is due to the vegetation. The commission, and therefore they need modification in the assignment parameters. The commission will not, if they go to the normal standard that is there, it would not have taken care of such conditions. So it would have been better if MTN themselves are participating in the standards development conferences. If Ericsson's, the vendors, they are participating, but they are not from Nigeria. They are not from Africa. You go there, you see a lot of Huawei, you see ZTE from US, from China, you see all of them, but none coming from Africa. So having African participation by the real operators, the people that are in the field, will make us benefit even more. When at the inception of GSM, what the NCC was doing, most often people will apply for certain licenses that do not exist. And the commission will now invite them, people that have such experience abroad, and we look at them and start developing licenses accordingly. If there is feedback from the operators that these are the things happening, that their users are complaining about this, that their vendors say we should modify it to this way, that these are happening, then as they were talking about standards center, what did you call it there? Yes, National Standardization Center. Then secretariat, such things could be taken up. And when the vendor comes there, when the user comes there, when the operator comes there, when the regulator comes there, they are coming totally on technical ground. There's nothing like tough protection. Then, for the ones that have been developed, is as it may apply. But I need to just repeat it again. As you see Dr. Tatiana there, Shabna, Dr. Tatiana is a repository of all the approved standards and recommendations in yes. So we are having a lot that we are not tapping into. We are talking of counterfeit phones. We are talking about people coming and running emulation program on their phones and therefore simulating another person's, cloning another person's phone. These things have ways they are being addressed. And I know that NCC is doing a lot really, trying to fight and put these standards into play. We should know that apart from certain peculiar issues, there are a lot that we can benefit from existing standards. But we want the operators, the vendors, and all other people that are in the field to help the commission in bringing forth the challenges they are having. Just a minute. There was a time they wanted to license somebody. And when one of the vendors went and conducted tests there, even though by our record, nobody was supposed to exist there. But the noise floor was very high, which means something was going wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Fidelis. Okay. So we'll move on to the next quick one. Engineer, please tell us. You mentioned funding. How do we get money to support ourselves? Yes.
Thank you. I'm happy Wakil is smiling. Because maybe he thought I would jam him first. No, I'll not jam you first. Well, funding is the most critical issue for the academia to participate in ITV activities. Funding is critical because, you know, the academia is not necessarily a money-generating unit or section. They are just there for academic purposes and for academic excellence. If they have extra money, it is minimal. There are supports the academia, I now want to talk about Nigeria. There are supports the academia have. There's what we call that fund. There's some fund actually, but it is still minimal from NUC and from Ministry of Education. But telecommunication is a special area. If telecommunication is a special area, the funding for participation in telecommunication activities should grow beyond what normally exists. And that is why sometimes we shift our beam to something like NCC or something like, we are now tempering to know whether something can be done about Universal Provision Fund. I don't know the legality surrounding it, but can something like capacity building be added to what it is supposed to be doing? Funding, again, can come actually in form of launching for donation, endowment. The institutions can still do that. But we want a stage where we will start this thing from a national body so that the import will permeate all sectors, not just only education. I want to tell you that education is a consuming area. So if they give you Minister of Education, now punishment, you are giving punishment. Sorry, I wanted to change one. It is punishment you are giving because you have a vast area to go through. That is why government budget largely goes to that area, but yet it is not enough. So funding for the academia should come from various angles. We also have, like in Nigeria, we also have NITDA. I've already mentioned NCC. We have other bodies. If we operate at a national level, of which in Nigeria, for instance, we always hinge everything about ICT on NCC. Sorry, I'm always calling NCC. If NCC can coordinate, even if it is a conference, a mini conference, let us think about this thing. Let us know how to bring the academia in. Because all this research work is best done in the academic environment. Not only it is best done in the academic environment, you are training people, manpower. And the earlier they grab this knowledge, the better. So I feel that funding strategies should be designed to include the academia in participating in ITU activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Add quickly, the academia should also be up and doing in terms of attracting that funding, because you cannot just sit down and think funds should come to you. For instance, the ITU website is there. All the work that has been carried out under the various study groups are there. The academia, what we expect is for you to look at it and come up with submissions that are, bankable, submissions that is fundable. Then you can approach either NCC or any other as you talk about. Then we will have justification to, request for the funding. But you cannot just sit down and thinking that funding will just come to the academia. So you must attract the funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I think I can move on. I can come to you properly. Then you also share with us. We've talked of some of the data that is being generated already. We said now we are in the future, actually, when it comes to data generation. How, from your perspective, how can developing countries take advantage of new technologies such as big data analytics and cloud computing to address developmental challenges?
Thank you very much. I think in developing countries, taking, for instance, Nigeria as an example, we have so much developmental challenges, particularly security is one of those things. And some of these new technologies that we talked about here, artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computing, can help us in fighting, for instance, security issues. Because if we can have, appropriate biometric and facial recognition and all that, and then we have massive deployment of, surveillance cameras all over, using, by high, broadband infrastructure, connected using IoT. All of these things can help us fight, and security is a common, phenomena in most of our African countries, particularly this Sahel area. We have so much of security issues. Then we can use these technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing, and data analytics, because big data is going to be, generated, looking the profiles, movements of things and people and all that, and then see, the actions and activities of some of the criminals, including those who are, smuggling in, light and, weapons and arms and all those things. We can able to, monitor. So it is only with technology we can able to effectively match. So if we can take advantage of these technologies, we can solve some of our developmental challenges, particularly security challenge is one of the biggest in our continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Without security, we will not be able to develop. And as you have well articulated, it's very important. I would like to also mention that we'll be giving some few minutes of time for those who are online and want to ask some few questions. So those who are with us online, you can stay put, and then when it gets to the question time, you can also bring in your questions or your contributions. I'll move quickly to Mr. Fati Seni. Mr. Fati, your earlier point you made was interesting. Now, GSMA, what regulatory intervention is required for us to facilitate increase in penetration of cloud computing and then big data in developing countries?
Okay, thank you, Isaac. I will do it in English. It's okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so first of all, I want to start by what Dr. Fideli said, and I have, because I'm the chairman of the SG13 African group, and we have the same issue than SG13, because we have a lack of participation of African countries. And for me, we cannot develop or use the new technology if African countries don't participate in the standardization. Okay, and for that, you mentioned that security is a big issue, and for me, if we want to, what is the regulator must review the laws, the and we need to have a data privacy law, and we need to have a cyber security law. And for example, only 3 or 4 or 5 countries in Africa signed the Malabo Convention. Okay, so and we are talking about security and cyber security, and we need also to train all the legal environment that like policemen, like the lawyers, because for example in Senegal, when we have issue with cybersecurity, but the law is empty, so we don't know what to do. The other thing that we need to have a national broadband plan, because if you want to use a big data or cloud computing, you will need to have a stable grid. You need to have a basic infrastructure facilitated by the government or by the regulator, and for that you will need a good connectivity. Okay, so it's important also to have a national plan, and most of all, you need to be focused on what is the need for the consumers, because they will always be at the center of what we are doing. Okay, so for all that, we need the intervention of the regulator, but the regulator also need to work closely with the operators. For example, in some country, you cannot have, if the cloud is not in the country, you cannot have the project, because the government said we need to have the cloud in the country, because we need to show the population that we know what you are doing with the data and everything. Okay, so the cloud must be in the country. But if you want to have the cloud in the country, you need a legal framework for that. Okay, so it's important. The other example I will give, we need also to have a regulator up to date, because in some country when the operators are asking for a frequencies lower, for example, for IoT, but the regulator doesn't know what to do. So we need also the regulator to be trained, okay, and to be up to date.
Thank you very much. We need a regulator also to be trained and up to date. That is valid. In some circumstances, when regulators do not know what to do, they just don't do anything. And there are times that it has consequences on the development of a particular technology. Thank you very much, Fatih. I'll come to you again, Liot. Still on SG13, please tell us, what form of support should a major ICT players provide to developing countries to increase their participation in the work of ITU SG13 standardization activities? Really, let me put it this way. What do you expect from Meanwhile, Ericsson, MTN, Airtel, Tigo, all these big companies that are in the communication industry when it comes to increasing participation in SG13 activities?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. These organizations are already doing a lot when it comes to the mother study group. But when it comes to the regional groups, they let us down. Where's Ericsson here as a participant in this regional group meeting? They are here invited to come and just do presentations as Ericsson and Huawei, ZTE and the like. But they've got companies in Africa. They are present here and they know the African problems that we have. So why are they not here in this regional group meeting to come and participate with us and share the problems that they have where they are operating within this continent? So I think that kind of support is missing. We need them here. Let them come and join us So if they don't, then it leaves us bare, because then the problems that they are facing in this region will not be known to us. So I think that's the kind of support that we really need. We need their presence, of course, not just to operate and make profits, but they should throw back some of those profits into the region and even assist the countries to kind of like have standards that work where they are operating. So I think that support is really, really needed.
Thank you very much. So, to the big ICT operators in this part of the world, Elliot says that come and participate in some of the things that we are doing. Basically, he's saying you should influence regulation and the policies. If you are going to leave us, who are paid by the government, to make all the decisions, don't come back later and complain. Thank you very much, Elliot. That's to put it bluntly. I'll move on to Peter, and I'm sure Peter will have something to say to that. But Peter, you have the experience. Share with us. What do you envisage is going to be some of the challenges we are going to face when it comes to future network deployment in Africa specifically?
Thank you so much, moderator. Just to add to what Mr. Richard said before, I will say also invite us. Okay, I will say this is a step. What we are having today is one step in the right direction. Okay, it may be baby steps, but it's something. Okay, for us, I can speak for Ericsson. We are always in good partnership relationship with NCC, and when they invite, we make every attempt to go. Yes, perhaps maybe we've not been coming as much as we should. Yes, but do also invite us. So when you have some of these meetings, extend invitation to us. Let it be that we invited you. You did not come. And maybe out of 10 or 10 invitations, there will be 6, 7 that will be honored. So that will be my response also. So it's both ways. It doesn't take away the shine from whatever, the fact that yes, we could do better or could do more. On what are the challenges we emphasize from our own experience as Ericsson? When we talk about big data, for me, also with the background of a planning engineer, I actually laugh. Because every time you have a cell phone, for example, it's already churning out much data. It's reporting to the base station, it's reporting the base station, it's reporting to the base controller, and it goes like that. So the information is already there. So what I will see and what we see as a challenge, which cut across Africa or anywhere in the world, is security. Because we now have more volume of this data. So the question is, this data that we have that are being generated, some are not intentional. It's just because of the standard that were created many back years ago. There are standards that say a phone should send some signals at a particular interval. So that information back then was not voluminous, but now it's actually big. So if such information falls into the wrong hands, that's a threat. Okay, so what I will say is that what we see first and foremost, which is very important, is security. Now, do we say because security is a challenge, we should stop or halt or slow down? I don't think that's the way forward. The way forward should be, how can we mitigate? How can we resolve it? How can we change the narrative? The answer is both here and there. For us as Ericsson, we can say our systems are automatically designed with security in mind. So that we are even discussing the fact that there are security challenges, I think it's a good one. So the awareness is being risen up. And we should not stop saying these are challenges. We will not have to go back again to the drawing board. So it's an iterative process. So that's one. And the other one, which I also want to mention, which I mentioned in passing before, I think one of the challenges we will see is spectrum. And some of these are historical in nature. For example, when some of the spectrum were assigned to broadcasts many years ago, nobody ever thought about that 5G will need 100 megahertz contiguous. Of course, you need 100 megahertz contiguous to be able to deliver those fast speed in 5G. From my own vantage position, I will say spectrum will be a much heated argument in the future. Why wait till the future? If we know 5G spectrum is a problem now, it probably will be a challenge going forward. So we now need to look back and say, how do we do it? In Nigeria, of course, there are already steps to take away spectrum from some of these original holders. Okay? But then we could do better. We could do more in the face of the challenges we see in the future. Lastly from me, while it is also a more challenge for developing countries, it has been said several times from yesterday till now, there are right of ways, we can put fiber on the ground. So our natural fallback, first and foremost, and I'm not sure these are problems that will go away in one day. You can't lay fiber from Nigeria to Ghana, for example. It could be cut somewhere. So the natural fallback will be on spectrum. So I will say, let's drive our thought leadership as a regional body. How can we look at harvesting spectrum, not just for 5G now, or not just for, but bearing in mind that there are future technologies we are looking at. I don't have all the answers, but let's start discussing it. Let's start questioning and querying how we have done things in the past. It may help us to set the ball in the right direction for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too. Yeah, yesterday, as it was indicated yesterday, and as you have elaborated, we were late in the other technologies. We are not seeking to make the same mistake again. For future networks, we want to leapfrog and be part of it. You've touched on security, which has been well articulated. You also talk about spectrum. I think the regulators are well positioned for them to make finding you the spectrum their headache. And when it came to the issue of your participation and what Elliot was also saying, I see we don't have a problem. What you are saying is that we should invite you. Elliot is also saying that you are not participating. For me, that's not a problem. Moving forward, we are going to ensure that you get an invite. Then when you get an invite, you also endeavor to come in. Like I said, operators need to influence regulation. If you leave us, anytime we call you to the table to discuss regulatory issues, it should be about taxes, what the government wants, definitely that's what you're supposed to do. Yes. So you also have to start participating in the whole process and ensure that your interest is at stake. At the same time, while we seek the interests of the consumers. We are hard pressed for time, so we'll move on quickly, give the audience the opportunity for them also to ask questions and contribute. And then also our colleagues in remote, if you have some few questions for our able panelists here, you are welcome to do so. Thank you very much. Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, will I say a round of applause for the panelists midway? Okay. Yes, having taken time to listen to you, I want to make contributions and probably ask some questions. Engineer Wakil, thank you so much for having to take on Engineer Chiki there in answering the aspect that has to do with the academia. Really, it's not as if I want to expose some of the inadequacies in the academia where I belong. But let me help Engineer Chiki out. We find ourselves in a very, very, let me say, pitiable situation in academics here. It's like a case of the spirit is willing, but the body is weak, or whichever, vice versa. That is the case. I'm happy some of you saw the youngsters I paraded here. I happen to be a HOD and at the same time a mentor. I have over 15 of such groups. That's just one of the groups. And most often we evolve problems by ourselves. Again, please get me very clearly. We evolve problems by ourselves and look for how to solve them. And we give each and every group task under my able mentorship. But at the end of the day, ask me, when they finish solving these problems, by way of hardware, by way of software and hardwares and what have you, they end up in the junkyard. Because nobody is coming to buy into these research ideas. May I put it this way again? The body language here is that Africans are more at home having to contact their work outside. We don't really believe in our own. We've discovered that to some extent. I'm not saying holistically. So it's a call, and I like this opportunity we have here to equally showcase our problems so we could get solutions to them. Going forward, for you to be sponsored for an international conference in the institution, in the university environment, is really, really competitive. And if you manage to get one, you can't get it again till the next 4 years. You're not going to get anyone. Yes, even when you manage to get, some persons have stayed, some have to travel myself, I've traveled all continents of the world for conferences at my own expense. I don't need to wait for the school anymore. I could take loan to travel to attend them conferences. Because if I'm going to wait for school, it's not going to happen. So when I said it's a pitiable condition, it's terrible. So that is one. We need assistance in whatever area, not even in terms of funds, information and what have you. That's one, by the way. Secondly, you did talk about we coming out. It's not good to sit down. That's why I really commend the engineer Wakil, because in as much as we're blaming the environment, we should equally blame ourselves. We need to come out. You don't just sit down in your cocoon and expect miracles to happen. We need to come out and probably visit and submit proposals. Showcase what you can do. Even to the man who probably believes you can't do anything, when by the time you tell him these are what you can do, he gets to start believing you, and you'll be getting some invites. So there's need for us to work on how to reach out. Reaching out is very, very important. And you can see this beautiful arena we are in here. How many of us are from the academia? And those that even found their way in how to do some extra work. It's quite important. The academia is it's quite interesting. It's quite important. The academia is here to participate, so it will be trendy. Then this issue now, and that has to do. Please let me put it to you. For all we are doing, I repeat, for all we are doing, trying to see whether Smart Africa, cloud computing, IoTs. I've not heard so much about securities. The man from Ericsson did talk about security good. The whole thing we're doing could be reduced or could be declared null and void by one penetration. So please, the aspect of as much as you're trying to build, please learn to secure so that the thing will be worthwhile. Then last but not the least, the reason for the other, let me lean on the part of the man from Ericsson who said, please, we should be getting some of these invitations. The reason for that, if you go to our curriculum in the university, you might not be too happy at some instances. Some of these things we get from here has a way of feeding back to the institution and to the bodies that are responsible for updating our curriculum. So please, I really appreciate we getting this invitation so as to benefit from some of the things, some of the wonderful works you're doing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. 1 second. Are you raising your hand? Okay. Can we allow him to ask his question? Then when he finish, maybe perhaps you'll be able to answer.
Okay, thank you. I want to follow up on what my colleague said, because I have had a number of experiences in trying to source fund for research. And it appears that our bodies in Nigeria do not believe in us. Meanwhile, people outside here believe in us. I've done a number of research proposals. I've done a UNESCO HP project for about 4 years, I think between 1999 to around 2013, with several fundings. And a number of workshops and training were funded by the European Union. But when you come to present these things to the Nigerian bodies, the good thing, the wonderful thing is that when we come together like this, we talk. And everybody is saying, okay, when the time comes, call us. But after this event, you write email, nobody responds. You place a call, nobody answers. So this has discouraged those of us in the academia, and it has made us to withdraw. So when you say that we sit down there and expect fund to come, it's not true, because we make efforts. If you are encouraged, then you will come again. So, but how comes that the same kind of proposal we write, and people outside there will take them and fund us for Nigerian consumption, for the development of Nigerian educational system? Yet, the owners of the school, the owners of the work, do not appreciate it. I think there's a disconnect. So sometimes we say these things just for saying sake, and we don't know perhaps whether anything will come out of it. That's why we have developed such apathy. It's as a result of experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Fidelis. Okay, let him take the last one so that when you answer, then we are moving on.
Good afternoon. Mine is not mine, actually. It's online. It's an online question from Samuel Ediago. He says, I would like the panel to address the issue of the designated focal point not approving registration requests from academics for participation in various ITUT meetings like the ITUT Study Group 13. SGR and AI for Good Global Summit.
Okay.
And then there's another question, sorry, but that's more of the timing for tomorrow's event as well.
Okay.
Yes, concerning registration by members of the academia, the focal point is of Nigeria, the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy is the administration for Nigeria. And we have a focal person there where all the mails for registrations are sent. Once you register on the ITU website, it will be sent to him to verify. So, but for you to do that, you must probably beforehand let us know, or so that we can let him know that such registration is coming. Because from out of the blue, if he cannot situate you where you are, who you are, he cannot actually approve. So that's the issue of identity. We need to have this identity, upfront, and then inform him that such person is going to apply, and then when the mail comes, please do approve. For clarity purpose, once you want to register on the ITU for any event or TIES account, it will first of all be sent to the focal person in Nigeria. The mails will automatically be routed to the focal person in Nigeria. It is the focal person that will now say, yes, I know this guy. And he will do that based on, you said, where you belong to, because organizations and all those informations are there. So if he doesn't know you, if he has never you have never been part of any of these events, it is very difficult for him to accept, because we don't know the identity, we don't know your motives, you understand? So please, there should be way of, since for those of you that have been here, if you want to do that, let us know so that we can inform the ministry people about you. Otherwise, it will always be dropped. All right? Thank you.
Just a brief addition. If the university academia says they were registered with the IT, you also have focal point. Yes. If the person must use the focal point of the University of Nigeria, that person must be known to University of Nigeria and known to the focal point man. Just like Wakil said, if you come from the blue, we will not agree, we will not recognize you, and we'll tell IT we don't know you. The best thing is for the person to introduce himself formally to the national focal point man, or come to the university and we know him, then we will assist. Thank you.
And for that information to all the members of the academia, each of the university has a right to register with ITU as a member of the academia. But mind you, there is a fee to be paid, annual fee to be paid, to ITU for you to be recognized. And so also the operating companies, they are also free to register, as sector members and so on. So once you register your organization, a focal point will be required, and then you put that focal point will be the one, whoever that is registering under your organization will give the approval, at the end of the day. That's how it works. Thank you.
Just like he was talking about the focal point, it is not that they are wicked, but because of the security things that happen. So if somebody is approved by the focal point, and yet the focal point doesn't know the person, and the person now travels to the event, maybe in Geneva, and causes problem, if they track him and they can't get him, they go back to the focal point that approved it. So these are the issues. But like they have already explained way out. Now I just want to talk about the one that Dr. Gajo talked, and then you, Dr. too. The issue is this. If you conjecture a topic and solve it, it may not be relevant. So even if you take it to anywhere, you might not attract any sympathy at all. Imagine if somebody is researching on how a sensor can open a door, and then just for academic exercise to solve it in another way. Who needs it? Opening the door that we flush up and, when it's already existing and so on. But if I am a member of IEEE, I'm a member of standards under IEEE, I'm a member of computer engineering under IEEE, I'm a member of communications under IEEE. Every month, they publish list of topics that people should write on. And they will give you like 3 months to develop like the abstract. Then they review the abstract. If it's approved, you go ahead to do the whole body. The ITU website, they also have such things sometimes. Topics that you can work on. Real life topic. In 2012, I just want to tell you the difference between us and the foreign ones. In 2012, I talked with the head of engineering department, the dean. I was to go there and do my PhD. But unfortunately, they wanted me to do it full time, and I couldn't. So, and then the fee was very high. So he told me, don't worry, that he has looked through the sponsorship he has, and there was none. And that time they were talking on MIMO. Remember, MIMO is even driving 5G now. It's driving it. We're talking of even that time single MIMO. Then before it was double. Then before 4. And now we are talking of massive MIMO. So, and that was the time they were just doing it. And he had sponsorship from one of those companies. And he now called me and said he has sponsorship, I should come. Already I had started doing it here. And I couldn't even leave the office to go. But it is real. So how I would advise you is that you should visit these standards bodies. There are a lot of SDOs, standards developing organizations that are affiliated, that are friends of ITU, that work with ITU, that you can also go to their website. Some of them you don't even need to be registered to see some of the topics that are hot. And you can work on it. We have an emerging technology now. We are talking of 2030, and we are talking of holographic. We are talking of telesensing, holosense. We are talking of telepresence. We're talking of a lot of things, haptic sensing. We're talking of digital electronic nodes. So these are things that are happening now, that if you should go into it, it will be hot cake. Then I think you should also liaise with, there was something my former boss, that is Professor Dambata, he told me. Well, he's my boss. Yeah. He said, engineer, do you know what? And he was saying it to congratulate me when I got my PhD. He said, you know what we are teaching students, they are way out of what is happening in the industry. So I advise you that even you can go to these operators, and maybe some of them have local problems that they are fretting outside to their main office somewhere to be researched on, to ask them if there's any way we can get this. In those days, universities, once you enter Nigerian university, within 1 year, you will get one scholarship or the other from organizations, So it behoves on you to prove that you're capable. And there are ways of doing it, which I just feel that if you are looking at it, you will do it. People have accused lecturers of parading lecture notes of over 30 years or 20 years. What you used 10 years ago is very obsolete now, but they will still use it to teach students. And when the students come out, they come to the office, they are not usable. They have to be trained again. So, but it can be addressed ab initio. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fidelis. So, a lot of advice for you, tons of it. I would say that look as if it's both ways. We all have a role to play in contributing to making us be able to leapfrog. Perhaps, Dr. Fidelis, I will share also this one. Normally, big brothers do not like taking advice from junior brothers. As Nigeria has become the bigger brother of Ghana, I don't know if I'm in the right position to also say this, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. Operators back home in Ghana normally do not, the academia, do not have the moral right normally to accuse the regulator that is not helping them. I don't know whether you have the same system here. We sponsor a chair, we call it a chair in the schools. Yes. And it's been going on since. I was surprised. I had a professor in my school, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, where a lot of Nigerians, will be coming there. And I'd never seen him in almost 10 years. One day I saw him in my office. I said, Prof, what are you doing here? He said, I'm coming for my check. So perhaps, whilst we advise them, we should also look at it from also our policy point of view. We can look at some of these options. He used to go to one university, University of Ghana, until a new administration came, they split it. And when I heard, it's quite substantive. So, they can accuse us. I've never heard in Ghana where academia ever saying that you are not sponsoring us. I don't know, perhaps you have something similar.
Yeah. Actually, we have professorial chairs in number of universities, the NCC is sponsoring. And then we have also a research and development, department that deals with the academia mainly. And every year they advertise, projects, research projects, the universities compete, and then the NCC sponsored those projects. We do have.
Thank you very much. Then it's case closed.
Yeah.
We don't have an issue here, so perhaps I think Fidelis' time is fast spent, and I think it clarifies it. For
just 1 second.
Okay.
What I just wanted to say is that when he presented students yesterday that treated life issue, everybody was excited. Yeah. I saw vendors, I saw operators going to talk to them. That is real. So maybe he may wish to step on that and do something else.
Thank you very much. I think we've said enough, and it is at the right time to bring the panel discussion to an end. I would like to thank my panel members, Dr. Fidelis, Engineer Ernest Wakil, then Fatih from Senegal, Elliot, then Peter. Thank you very much for coming to share your extensive knowledge with us. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think to just round up, I will call on the chair of the Study Group 13 Regional Group for Africa, Mr. Simon, to summarize.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, we are there. I want to thank you very much for your attention. I want to thank you very much, panelists, for a very interesting set of questions. Isaac, that was a very, very good activity you took us through. I liked the sincerity and I liked the realistic issues that were raised. We are winding towards the end of this very, very exciting and fruitful workshop. And from me as a person, I really want to thank you very much. But before I come to the end, I have the honor to give you my thoughts on how this all ran. If you could present, I'm going to give you a very, very small highlight of what we got out of this. By way of going forward, what we are going to do, when we have a meeting starting on 4th, I think tomorrow afternoon, we will take up some of these issues into the meeting. What we normally do is we work them into work items. That is one of the starting blocks to standardization. And then we take them through and we see they will end. But otherwise, we're going to produce a report that we shall submit to Study Group 13 with all these items. I have a very strong feeling most of them will end up at WTSA 2020. So these are very, very important issues. And now, before I forget, like I must not forget, tomorrow we will start at 9. You are all welcome to the training tomorrow at 9, BSG training. It is a very, very informative training. Most of us have done it, and it is never ending. You learn new things all the time. But most importantly, ITU standardization is a club. Most people have not told you, but let me tell you, it's a club. And as any other clubs, they have rules of how they do things. So this is when you get to learn about them. How do you prepare? How do you construct? He knows all these things. So the idea is come and get information so that you can start on the journey of participating actively in ITU. That will stop at 12:30, lunchtime. And then afterwards, we shall start the meeting. The meeting is expected to run from tomorrow afternoon up to the afternoon of Thursday. We think it will be done by that time. So that's as far as the program is concerned. Once again, this has no restriction. The training has no restriction. The more, the better. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen are invited. Let me do the summary very quickly. 2 minutes. One, these are the highlights. The first session, can you go to the next slide, please? These are the issues that were observed. It was about IMT 2020, and some of the things that were suggested that Study Group 13 can pursue. These include the pursuit for 5G, to continue 5G realizable. As we were told, it's no longer a future network, it is here. The challenges in applying machine learning due to lack of standardization sets, it's a serious thing and we need to address it. We have had solutions and proposals that will pick up use cases for AI and machine learning in accordance with the ITUT specified format. You remember Dr. Vishnu told us that they have simplified matters, and most of these things we've been discussing, we shall try to put them into that format and submit them and hope they will see day. Next slide, please. The next slide, it was Hot Topics 2. Some of the things that were suggested is identification of applicable performance targets for Network 2030. Network 2030 is looking very far. I want to tell you, Network 2020 looked far at some stage, but we are already in 2020. So 2030 is going to come. Maybe not for all of us, but for some people it's going to come. So don't think of it as being very far away. So we need to start being realistic about it. What are the drawbacks in 4G? And that can be addressed in 5G. We've had issues with 4G. Probably 5G should be used to address those. What are the potential drawbacks deployable in 5G that we think 2030 can solve? And the like. We think Study Group 13 Regional Group of Africa should look at this and take them forward as work items as improvement of 2030. Beauty about 2030, the discussions are still in infancy, but they are rife and going on. Therefore, we have an opportunity to influence. Next slide, please. That one was session 3. It was about trust and convergence. There was a suggestion that drive discussion to build capacity in security and trust aspects of the network. This is something that probably we are not taking as serious as it is serious. So we need to start thinking. The gentleman said probably there was not enough discussion on security. Trust, security are all in the same basket. So we need to really think serious about this. Activities drive and support the participation of academia. We are very glad that at least I've seen 3 different universities around here. So that is a very good start. So we need to include academia. Academia has a unique way. They have freed their mind to think, so we should utilize that a lot. Members of Study Group 13 regional group should actively drive implementation of already approved. This is a recommendation. Ghana has given us an example. Zambia gave us an example. Nigeria indeed has given us an example with those 2 young boys. They have started implementation at whatever scale it is. This is the way to go. I was in one of the meetings of 5G, and I think I heard in Spain, they had space they had identified for 5G implementation. So where are we with that? We need to start. Start small, there's no problem. Encourage enlightenment campaigns in different African countries, like this drive here. I'm told, I was pleased to see a lot of high-level people, and I think their attitude towards this work is not going to remain the same, just because they came and attended. So when we want to come to your country next time, because we must be somewhere, we're not going to come back to Nigeria. I know I've enjoyed Nigeria very much, but the rules don't allow us to come back again. We need to go to another country. So these are the benefits. You get a lot of people to hear about these things. Collaboration with Study Group 12 on QoS is very important, and we certainly encourage that. Next slide, please. This is standardization hot topic 4, cloud computing. ITU should provide guidance to developing countries on how to develop big data strategic plan. That's one of the things that Dr. Rim's supplement is seeking to provide. These supplements take knowledge that is existing, the recommendations that are existing, and they try to guide, especially developing countries, on how to apply or how to implement those things. So please don't look for them. They are there, and they will be very helpful. We shall definitely promote them whenever we have an opportunity. Regional bodies should push for policies to be developed for cloud services due to the low adoption level. You saw, and many presenters indicated that there is low uptake of cloud computing in Africa. Reasons why we need to investigate some more. Next slide, please. This is on machine learning and AI. They should encourage members to take advantage of ITU guidelines in setting up national secretariats. The importance of secretariats, you've heard of the countries that have been graded, the steps they have taken, the strategic plans they have developed, and the policies. All of us are encouraged to follow suit. Explore ways of bringing some machine activities to Africa. This was a request that was made, which we shall continue to make. Fortunately for us, Dr. Tatiana here is a very active collaborator and counselor of that group. We have already talked to the leadership and asking them to bring her, and they are saying, yes, if we get an invitation. So if you are out there and think you can host this, please bail us out. It is much easier for us to come to Nigeria than to go to Geneva. Call on African countries